unleash our brilliance during our Star Power live series. We've got Cecilia Dahl here, and we're going to be talking about discovering the power of being your genuine self and how it can impact your business. And so I'm Kim Woods. I'm a business strategist and master astrologer, and my mission is to create rich and powerful leaders through my success-making methodology as I clear their pathway to their success. We're going to talk today with Cecilia Dahl, and you don't want to miss this because she is awesome sauce, a remote team expert, and she's a serial entrepreneur, having grown one of her businesses to $100 million. And no, I did not get that decimal wrong or those zeros wrong. She has a handful of patents, and she's grown multiple businesses, and she is pivoting right now to using her expertise and bringing it out to you, business leaders who have remote teams, to help you optimize them, create trust, and to build teams that really stay connected. So welcome, Cecilia. How are you doing today?
Thanks, Kim. Doing great. Thank you for that introduction. That was lovely.
Oh, good. Oh, good. So what do we want to talk about first? Do we want to talk about, like, you had amazing success and you still have success in your travel business, and you did a big pivot. Do we want to talk about why the pivot and how the pivot?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that for me, as you noted, I've been in the travel industry for many years, and the pivot for me came because I was forced to pivot. It was actually what I guess people would be calling a COVID catalyst. I have been working remotely, as I have for many decades, and living the life on a beautiful sailboat. My husband and I found ourselves sailing in the Bahamas while I was working, and everything was great. Just an amazing, amazing time. We had built this lifestyle for ourselves. And when COVID came, with my travel business, even though I was enjoying life in the Bahamas, the walls started to close in a little as my clients started to call and say, there is no more travel, we're shut down. And I was a little bit in denial at first, because here we were in paradise and we were so far away from everything. And when I started to realize that this was really going to last a long time and things started to feel a little scary, I realized I have to do something. I have to do something else. Right. And in looking at my skills and seeing what was going on with the world, having worked remotely for 30 years, either working myself remotely or being on the road, or even when I built my last business, I realized that this was natural to me, what people were struggling with. And that's when I decided that I was going to branch out, and I needed to build something else, having come to the realization that the travel industry is not necessarily always stable. It's coming back now, of course, thankfully, but it's good to know that there's something else to fall back on should there be other events.
Exactly. And what was the first step that you started to stir? I can't imagine you were on your boat and you're like, okay, I'm going to build a business in a minute and a half, and here we go, right? There's a pivot, and there's a timing, and there's certain steps that happen. So what did some of those look like for you?
Yeah, it was a really interesting evolution for this. So I reached out to my business partner in my consulting business. Her name's Catherine Brand. We both have been working remotely for a long time. And we started to talk about this idea of helping people in the pandemic when they were forced to suddenly go to remote workspaces, but didn't have any opportunity to plan for it or even understand what it means to go remote. So we started with online workshops that we were building. So we started with big online workshops and then realized, okay, people are in a weird place. Their attention span is small. So we did bite-sized ones. And when we laid it all out, we realized this is actually a book. These are chapters of a book. And that's when we really sort of bit into this idea of, we're going to take this a step further and write a book. We've written a book. It was published in April, Unlocking the Secrets of Leading Virtual Teams. Yeah.
Nice.
And now, it was a years-long project, and it was a tough one, but there was a lot to it. So we poured our hearts into this, and now we're each sort of going in different directions with, where do we want to go? What do we want to do with this book and with our knowledge and all of that? And for me, it's to take my message out to leaders of virtual teams and to help them overcome some of these challenges.
Right. And you are going on the speaking circuit. So talk to us about how that's going.
Yeah, so I am going on the speaking circuit. I just today launched Dear Cecilia, which is my own stage for speaking. Dear Cecilia is I would say, a video version of Dear Abby, but for virtual leaders. And so, yeah, so I'm doing that. I launched it today, and I couldn't actually believe I've already gotten letters for my next episode. I was thinking to myself, what if nobody writes me? But you know
Right.
what? People need the counsel. So that's pretty exciting. And also, yeah, looking to talk at conferences and events, and also, working with people who are struggling with their leadership in virtual teams.
Right. Okay. So talk to me about speaking. Talk to me about being here today. Talk to me about what it feels like. When you're a speaker, your stage, whether it's your stage or somebody else's stage, there's a
Mhm.
process. And when you've been working remotely, you didn't necessarily have that. So this is a big shift.
Yeah, this is a really big shift. And as I've been going through the whole process of understanding how to speak and what to talk about, I've come to the realization that the best thing for me is, and what resonates the most, is to talk about my experiences. Now, I think in my world, I've always had this impression that when someone's an expert, they get up on the stage and they tell you how it is. I'm an expert in this. And the reality is, for me, my expertise comes from many years of learning. And some of that learning is hard, and some of it is joyful. And the interesting thing is, when you put yourself out there, there's a lot of vulnerability, and that hasn't been an easy transition for me. But I am, over time, as I talk to more and more people and get out there, I'm realizing that everyone's struggling with this right now.
Mhm.
And I have some things I can help with.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I will say, because I have been my people know that for me to come out of the spiritual closet took me a while. That was a huge pivot for me. And that it was, shaky, and I felt insecure, and to be able to introduce myself and be able to go to that edge, it felt really edgy to me to tell my story, to be real, to be not necessarily authentic, because I think you and I are both authentic, but it's, I think there could be this tape running in your head, like, should I say this? Should I not say this? Am I going too far? Should I back off? Right? Talk
Yeah.
to me and tell me the truth. Is that happening to you at all right now, or no?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. Yeah. And I think what I didn't realize in going in and, creating a keynote to support my book is how much work it is, and how much you actually have to uncover, and how much vulnerability you have to bring to the table. And that is something that it's more difficult than I thought it was going to be. And I've been working on it now for many months, and pulling it all together, because there are times when, like you say, you come out there, and there's that thing, you're putting yourself out there for the world to see, and it's a very vulnerable place. But at the end of the day, these lessons are real. And if I can help virtual leaders or leaders of remote and hybrid teams get better results and create better workspaces and keep their people longer, then I've done my job. And and that makes me happy.
Yeah. So I'm going to share my story in a few sentences, and I'm going to ask you to share like a vulnerable piece that you may or may not have shared before, right? Like we talked about all of these things. So, for me, when I first started talking about, I have a do you know, like, and trust yourself methodology, and that's a mouthful, right? So when I was doing those 2-minute or 3-minute TV appearances, and I had to, introduce myself and just say the story in like 3 sentences, I would be but since then I've gotten much better. So there is definitely that practice, right? So I can say, when my son was born and I recognized that he had major issues, I learned how much I knew, like, and trusted myself, because I had to defy doctors' predictions, and I had to come up with advocacy of marrying Western practices with Eastern methods, and I had to trust myself for 8 long years before I got to see those transformative results. And then once I did, I realized it changed my life. And, the divergent path between traditional business and then, incorporating those Eastern methods, in my case, astrology, I could get transformative results for clients. I have to tell you, that's a mouthful. The first few times I said it, I was questioning myself and I didn't know really where I wanted to go. But with practice, you get to that synthesis. But do you have one like little snippet or one piece of something that you can share that's like a look behind the curtain of Cecilia versus the poised, amazing, successful, entrepreneur that you are?
Well, I will say this much, that my journey as a leader has been a roller coaster ride, I think, from day one. And there's a million little lessons in there that, any one of them could tell this particular story, decisions that I've made that have, fallen flat. For example, I'll give you one. Wasn't planning to tell this story today, but one of the things about building a remote team is you really have to be laser focused on identifying what exactly your people are good at doing, because when they leave you and they're dispersed, you can't always be on top of everything. So understanding exactly what they're good at and putting the right tools in place to kind of balance this autonomy with accountability is really critical. And I, at one point, failed to do that. And we gave people who were really good at one job, we gave them a responsibility to handle these huge marketing budgets. And the marketing budgets were meant to be, I'm going to say it was several $100,000 when you divide it up, meant to be targeted to bring direct consumers to our travel pass product. And we just kind of figured these are senior people. Some of them excelled at it and they did well, but we did have one person who sponsored a race car, for example. And it was one of these moments where I just sort of realized, wow, if I had a better plan, if I had understood more about my own leadership, if I had realized that I needed to keep tabs on, that process, then we could have saved ourselves a ton of money. And I think that's, there's a million stories, but some of them were actually pretty good. Some of them were wins, but that was one that really kind of cemented for me, when you have a virtual team, they have to have very specific KPIs, very specific skills have to be identified, and you have to stay on top of it regularly and communicate. You can't just sort of hand them $500,000 and walk away. And I was also quite young at the time, and we had a lot of things going on, but lessons learned.
Right.
I have the T-shirt. I have the T-shirt with from the race car.
I figured that. I figured you probably had a little model of the race car. Like we're going to frame this. We're going to put it on a little statue here, right? Like
that's an embarrassing one, but yeah.
Hey, you know what? And thank you so much for sharing, because I know that it is. It's like, ooh, who's watching this right now? What are they thinking? And you know what they're thinking? They're thinking, oh my gosh, first of all, the coolest thing ever to be able to sponsor a race car, whether that worked or not, right? And then the second thing is, wow, listen to that amount of money. You know what I mean? Like there's different impressions that different people get. And I will tell you that you'll be more memorable to them because you did share a story. People do remember stories versus, okay, I'm going to give you 3 quick tips and we're going to go through them. That's helpful. But then think about it. We're all busy. We all have a lot of data input, no matter, whether we're online or not. And what do we carry away from us? Something that fills the heart, something that we can connect to, and something that then we remember in a way that we wouldn't with those, tips or tools, right?
For sure. Yeah.
So thank you for that. So thank you for coming to the edge with me, my friend. Right. So we're going to talk a little bit about going up deeper, right? Because we're talking, and so all our energy is up here, and me, I'm all about energy. So we're going to talk about like going down to that heart, which we just did with that story. And then if we go down even further and like go down into our will, and we really start planting things. I mean, I think you've done a great job talking about Dear Cecilia, because that's very practical, and you're going to get letters, and people now know about that, which is super fun. You did give a little glimpse behind the curtain about like remote teams and what's really important. But I'm going to ask another personal, question, and I can share that we're working together. When you think about coming out into the world, when you came, we talked about speaking is great, and your speakership is going to be phenomenally successful. I know that to be true, especially with all the effort that you put in and the courage that you've shown. And yet there is more, right? Like, I think what I asked you and I told you, I was like, yeah, but what about value for you? What about expanding and looking at other channels?
Yeah. I mean, that's a really important point because that's been part of this, right? When you start something new and you start to build your business plan and think about how's it going to go, where's it going to go. One of the great things, and I really appreciate that you kind of brought this forward for me when we have been working together, is that when I look at what I'm really good at and what I love to do, I love to work with teams and I'm very good at assessing. I'm very good at coming in and seeing, if a team is excelling over here, but maybe they're struggling over here, I see what those challenges are and I can very quickly kind of map a path forward to get past any hurdles or blockages. And what I've come to realize is that I really want to be working with teams. Yes, I love to speak. I love to talk to leaders of virtual teams and inspire people to jump on the bandwagon because they will get left behind if they don't at this point. And at the same time, I love to get in there with the teams and to talk to people and see where they're struggling because that's where I can really add value and help. And that's something that's a new realization for me that's really something that I'm also very passionate about.
And your whole energy shifted and you started talking and you're using your hands and you're like almost swept away, and it's so inspiring to watch. So definitely, like, we're definitely like rolling that out, right? So note to people out there that have remote teams. 1-800-Cecilia is right here, right? Dear Cecilia.
Right? Dear Cecilia.
Yeah, dear Cecilia. Okay. So we're talking about a new venture. We're talking about you doing speaking. Do you want to have a star peak for the rest of 2023?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yeah. Bring it.
Always, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So for everybody, there are things that have happened in this sky, right? And one of them that's coming up that you may have heard me mention is Venus is going retrograde in Leo in July 22nd through September 3rd. If you've been following me for a while, you're like, yawn. But for those of you who haven't, right, this is a new thing. For each of us, though, it hits us differently. And so for you, Cecilia, that's going to start off in your house of work, in your house of like your mission. You're already starting to feel it. Like, look what we're doing today, right? So this is like Venus loves to be out. She loves to connect. She loves to, like, if you think about it from a business perspective, she's almost like your marketing team. And in Leo, she's like, how are you being a leader? How are you showing up on stage? How are you being authentic? How are you showing like that you're a person and not just a role? Gee, there's no like, misstep here that I've been talking about this with people for a while, right? So for you, it is about work. It is about your position in the world. And when you get to, so that's from July 22nd until August 24th, when you get to August 24th, because she's pulling back, you're going to then, between that time and the middle of September, you're going to be doing more things about thinking about twofold. How do I then position myself to work across nations? So there might be some cross-cultural things, some cross-geography things. It's not for you to go, it's for you to plan and to think about and create. So there might be like maybe a multinational that comes in or something like that, but it's for planning and it's for creation for you. And it is more philosophical. It's more strategic. It's less action oriented. So that first half of it, a little bit more like roll up your sleeves, dive in. And then the second half is like, okay, now let's just think about this. When I get to also mid-July and it comes back in mid-October, your good luck charm, the good luck charm in the sky shines on your sun. What does that mean? You're a Taurus. Different type of leadership. This is more partnership. This is more like, who am I working with? How am I guiding them? How am I coming out maybe as a mentor? I liked what you said about assessment. That's very Taurian. So there's some good luck that also happens there. So we can take that all day long, right? So mid-July, mid-October, right? So again, it's like there's an illumination there that happens. Now in the mid-September timeframe, and this most likely happens to you most, if you think of the fall, you might have moments. I mean, the sun's in Virgo at that time, right? So Virgo is crazy making. Virgo is like the like it's going to be a little bit more crazy making this September because we have Mercury retrograde, and that's going to make everybody go cuckoo. For you, you actually have one of your symbols there for you being out in the world. So this is more of a take note and be really conservative about timing. If somebody said to you, I want your keynote speech to be on September 18th, you'd be like, you know what? Do you have a date in October?
Okay, I'll take
Okay.
note.
because you're going to be, it's literally going to impact you. You're going to be, if we take self-doubt and self-questioning, we could amplify it by 10. So you don't want to be on a stage then. You're going to be like, nope, I'm going to work with my clients. I'm going to be doing my things, but not so much with that. So if somebody says, oh, I've had a cancellation, you can come in. You could be on a panel. That would be fine. But for you to have all the spotlight on you in like just on you, I don't think that would be great for you at that time.
That's good to know.
Isn't that good to know? Isn't that
Yeah,
so good to
definitely
know?
good to know. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But then when we get into the third week of November, all the way through the middle of December, really good energy for you. You hit your good luck charm. The sun shines on that. It's very much about money. It's very much about growth. It's very expansive. It's exploratory. So.
Nice.
Yummalicious, right? Like we definitely want to end on that note and not on that Virgo note, right?
Right,
Like
for sure,
no.
Virgo.
We'll just, you know what, do your lists and like do your mantras and like do the things that make you feel really grounded during September.
I will. Believe me, I will. I'm going to go back and watch the recording so I can write the exact dates down.
Absolutely. Yeah, because you know my janky notes. Yeah, that doesn't help anybody, right? Like not at all. So if we were to share, like, so for us, we're gonna like our only call to action today is we want to offer a poll for people if they want to answer one question for us. We want to know what type of information you'd like to see from us, and we range from business and leadership all the way to the stars and intuition. So we have a one question poll. We're going to drop the link in. If you want to add a 1 in the comments, we'll make sure you get it, or we'll just put it in general. And you get a free abundance meditation that I just did that's in all this groovy new money energy. So that feels really luscious. Or if you're like, not so much with the sharing, don't really want to do that, right? Then I can give you a link to a YouTube playlist that we just did that also has really good energy around prosperity and abundance. And you can just put a 2 in there and we'll go ahead and we'll send you that link to the playlist. But for Cecilia, how can people get in touch with you?
Right. So you can visit my website, ceciliadahl.com, and sign right up for my newsletter. I put out a monthly newsletter. And also on ceciliadahl.com, you'll find Dear Cecilia. There's a link and there's a form for Dear Cecilia. You can just send your questions right to me, and that's anonymous. And let me know how I can work with you. At the end of the day, every remote team should be benefiting from all of the great things: the reduced cost, the access to global talent, the increased innovation, the expanded operating hours, all that. That's my mission. And if I can help you, I would love to connect.
Excellent. That's excellent. So thank you so much for being here today. This is our second live for our Star Power series for success. We won't be here next week because of the holiday in the US, but we will be here the week after. And I'm super excited to share the stars and success with everyone.
Thank you, Kim. You're amazing. I appreciate the opportunity.